Welcome to Lede the Way, the podcast from LedeWire, where we talk about the future of independent journalism and the real-time journey of building something new. Today, we're diving into Substack's massive new raise and their $1 billion valuation, the subscription versus ad model debate, and the latest shakeup in legacy media with Colbert's show being canceled. Plus, we'll touch on the progress we're making at LedeWire. Guys, let's dive right in. Talk a little bit about Substack. It was pretty exciting news to see $100 million come in, but obviously that changes the landscape for independent creators and independent journalism. Adds a lot of pressure to Substack becoming something big. What's your thoughts, Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's one. I think it's a testament to the business that those guys have built, right? Like, I mean, I think it's pretty fantastic that they kind of just saw something with independent media, independent journalism that they felt like was underserved, right? And it's this ability for writers and independent content creators to connect directly with their audience, right? Like, that seemed like a market that there wasn't anybody out there that was doing it really well. Like, just sending out newsletters, it used to be, you would sort of post a blog and then maybe you could get somebody to sign up for an email list, and they sort of flipped that model around and really went like, direct outreach to your audience and really tried to leverage that credibility that writers and creators have built with their audience over time. And I think they did a fantastic job of it. Now, I mean, you can talk about like what the future looks like for Substack, and I think it gets really interesting when you do that, just given the people that invested in this round, right? It's not Andreessen Horowitz leading the round anymore. It's the Chernin Group, which is a little bit more of like a traditional media advertising focused group. And so I think that there are still some questions to be answered about like what this is going to do. The valuation that they put on the company, from what I understand, Substack, and based on a few different sources, it sounds like Substack was doing about a $45 million revenue run rate. So you're looking at something north of a 25 multiple on, or north of like somewhere around a 25 multiple for their business that they just put on it. 25 multiple on revenue, which is that's sort of like high growth internet company type multiple. So how are they actually going to justify that multiple over time? I've spoken to a couple of my VC buddies, and I think generally the VC take on this is they've got a big audience, an engaged audience. We'll figure out a way to monetize it over time. But what that monetization strategy looks like over in the future is going to be really interesting. And then I think another really interesting piece of this is that Substack for a long period of time has really shied away from any sort of an advertising based model. Is the pressure going to be too great now, given the new investors, given this sort of, I mean, I think most big VC investors, when they put a $1 billion valuation on a company, they're still looking for something like a 5 to 10x return over the next 5 to 10 years. How are you going to monetize your audience better? It's hard for me to see a way that they do that without making an aggressive push into advertising, at least over that sort of 5 to 10 year term. So is that going to be the best thing for their business, for their audience, and for the writers that are working with them over time? I don't really know the answer to these things, but I think there's some really interesting questions that come out of this that we can definitely talk about.
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, I love the idea from a consumer side of just growing the marketplace and the access to quality ideas and quality thinking, just as a general idea. So I applaud that. I think one of the questions I have is to your point, how are they going to use it to ensure the quality is maintained? So is it acquiring 1 billion new consumers for the existing writers and supporting what they already have? Is it really acquiring 1 million new writers? I think the thing that I like is, I think we talked about it last time, but I feel like we're in this place where people are kind of addicted to social media when it comes to getting their news. Like, everybody kind of doesn't love the fact that the algorithm does its thing and serves up certain things, but also like everybody uses it. So yeah. I love alternatives and additions to the increased access to news that social media provides, and I think this investment does it. I just think, to your point, I mean, I'm curious about what they do with it and how they ensure that it remains high quality stuff beyond the pure network effect of like, you share your Substacks with me, your favorite Substacks with me, and I sign up for them as a consumer. But yeah, overall, access to better quality stuff, I think, is a positive for us as consumers.
Yeah, and that's the real question that I have coming out of this is like, they have built up this audience and they've built a lot of credibility as a platform. I mean, you get these, I don't know if you guys are big Substack subscribers, but like I get the emails from Chris Best every time he says, like, hey, this is what we care about. We care about writers. We care about this direct connection. If they flip that on its head and like turn it into more of an advertising based platform, do they lose some of that credibility that they've built up over the first kind of 10 years of this company? I don't know the answer to that, but they're going to have to walk a delicate line if they do decide to move more into advertising, and that I just don't know. And I think this is one of the things that they preach. One of the things that we really preach is just this this mantra that like being independent is really valuable in this day and age, because like being independent allows you to build more credibility with your audience. When you start moving towards an advertising model, does that threaten your independence, right? Because now all of a sudden your customers are not just the readers. Your customers are not just the writers that are writing on your platform. Your customers are also your advertisers, right? And Substack has been this sort of, like this sort of bastion of free speech. They've really, taken a hard line on not giving up, or not pushing writers off the platform because of things that they've said. Is that going to be as easy to do if they are an advertising-based platform in the future? Does it threaten their independence? I don't know the answer to that, but it seems like it's going to be a really delicate.
Well, do you think it becomes Substack selling ads, or the creators themselves selling ads to their audience, and Substack taking a cut of it, just like how they take a cut now of the subscription?
Sure. I mean, I think that it's probably a little bit of both, right? I mean, I think as a platform, if you're a platform saying I'm going to take 20 to 50% of your advertising revenue, like you got to justify how you're doing that. So like Substack has to be in the business of like helping their writers find advertisers in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what that would look like, right? But to justify that pretty significant platform fee, they're going to have to provide some sort of a service there. When they start providing that service and they're talking directly to advertisers, they've got to answer to the advertisers. So I don't know the answer. I mean, again, this is like all hypothetical, but it's a question.
It makes me think that they could take a step, Parker, your question makes me think, into like influencer status. Mm-hmm. So
affiliates,
which again,
affiliate type of links instead of just straight ads.
Totally, which actually has a lot of credibility and a lot of effectiveness in driving purchase. Like I read some stat that I think half of social users have made a purchase based on an influencer review. So like it works, it has that kind of social proof behind it. But does it mess with journalistic integrity? It probably depends. I mean, that's a really provocative question. As a way of bringing advertising dollars to the platform, I mean, for sure. Like if you've got a journalist who also runs a seminar that they're selling, like it does kind of make perfect sense for them to get into that terrain. As long as it's relevant and probably transparent. I think the problem is, I think it feels like it's reversion to the old, like, let's just capture eyeballs and attention.
Yeah.
And then bid that out. But there's definitely some potential there.
And that's, and I mean, John, you probably, and actually both of you, given your sort of marketing backgrounds, like probably know a lot more about this than I do. But like one of the things that I think advertisers are, seem really interested in is leveraging that credibility. And like you said, John, like, I mean, the reason that the influencer model works so well for advertisers is it's like, you've got this trusted party saying, hey, check out this product. I care about this product. But I mean, I'm curious your thoughts. Like, how do you do that? How do you bring that into the fold on a platform like Substack without losing some of the credibility that people are there for in the first place, which is like, this is an independent writer who is writing about topics that I care about, and I know he's unbiased in writing about those topics. Therefore, I'm willing to, fork over money for a subscription, versus turning into like an Instagram or a TikTok where you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm getting free content and I think it's entertaining, and every now and again they hawk a product that I might actually care about. Like how do you strike that balance between those two platforms and sort of fold in the subscription model with that influencer model?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I mean, if we're using the framework of something like a consumer funnel or a consumer journey, which I think are kind of bullshit. Like people don't enter your category and then start to consider and then do some research. Like it's a lot more organic than that. But I do think when it comes to discovery, certainly all of those platforms have a really strong role. Like you kind of know what I'm into and you can give me ideas at the edges of that, like new things happening within that idea. So like, I'll give you an example. I just got a dog and he's incredible, but he's a huge pain in the ass.
What
When
kind
I'm
of
serving up
dog?
stuff on
You got it.
social,
What kind of dog did you get, by the way?
he's a half Siberian Husky, half quarter pit, quarter hound.
Does he live there in your Bushwick studio, or
He's a part timer. He lives
Okay,
in my
all right,
part time. So, but he's incredible, but he's got some issues, right? So my Instagram is now completely populated with like, how do you deal with a reactive dog?
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, it's pretty amazing. Like I've purchased a few different little frozen food toys that calm the little squirrels in his brain. But I think for me, discovery is a huge thing, right? They've realized that about me because I've done some searches. They're serving up the right kind of content. There's going to be a point where it's ridiculous, but I do think that like discovery based on what I'm willing to share is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So I think that can translate into a Substack or into some of these platforms. If I'm following somebody, there's probably some alignment of interest or values going on there. So they might be able to introduce me to some new stuff.
Yeah, you trust them. I mean, I think it really is a perfect place for advertisers. Advertisers are going to eat it up. I mean, anyone that has a big following, someone willing to pay $5, $10 a month for someone's opinion writing, they're definitely going to be interested in the products that they are into. I don't want to say hawking, but if they've got a product on their page, and I'm already paying because I like what this person says, I'm going to be very interested in the products they're selling. I'm a subscriber to Airmail, and Airmail puts out some really great articles and stories and opinions. Some better than others, but they have a really interesting model. But I get an email from them at least once a week that's just products that people that they think are cool are selling. So they're selling ads constantly. But it's definitely affiliate style links versus just traditional advertising. It'll be interesting to see. There's no doubt that this investment is coming with advertising, and there's no way they're not going to turn on ads. It'll just be how they do it. Are they going to slow roll it out? Are they going to just cover the Substack page with advertisements? Will Substack be doing it? Will the writers be doing it? Will it be some sort of combination of both? It's coming. I mean, the Substack is going to change with this type of investment into the company, with new investors, investors that obviously see an undervalued company or a company not fully realizing the potential revenue that they could be generating. So it's coming. I actually think that most people will be okay with it at first. Long term, back to what you were saying earlier, Morgan, long term, it will affect what people are saying, why they're saying it. They will dive deeper into their niche and be selling products to their niche audience and giving the people what they want versus giving the people what they want to give the people. It feeds on itself, but it'll take a little while, but that will happen. And I think as it pertains to LedeWire, there's two things that are really interesting. One, we're in the right business. People, this is a good business to be in. That people are looking for ways to independently create and support themselves. Investors are looking for businesses like this to put funds into. And two, we have a different model, and we can keep our writers, creators independent because every single thing they put, it's not subscription based. They don't have to keep feeding the beast or whatever it may be. So we have a sort of a different approach as we look into it. But this is really exciting for us because everyone asks us about Substack. We talk about what we're building. We hear about Substack. We talk about Substack internally all the time. So it's been a hot topic on Team LedeWire.
Well, that's the thing. I guess I have sort of two lingering questions. One is, Substack. I mean, we all see what's going on over at Substack. Like every sort of independent writer, maybe not every one of them, but a lot of them, it seems like recently, have gone over to Substack. A lot of people in a high-profile way have left their traditional media platform, made a big splash about it, saying, "I'm going to write my Substack." What was it? Derek Thompson just did just recently, right? Like, these are guys that are well-known writers that are saying, "Hey, you know what? I want that independence. I want to go move out on my own." So I guess kicking it back to you, Parker, is there a place for the writer that just wants to be a journalist or, just wants to create engaging videos about topics that they care about and doesn't want to have to deal with the rest of the nonsense around selling ads or becoming like a full like media, traditional media type business. If that's what these platforms are kind of pushing towards, like, is there still a place for that? Just that, hey, direct, honest connection, writer to reader, or are all these platforms going to be pushed to kind of try and better monetize their audience, as it were?
I think there is a place for it. I follow people on Instagram that will talk about a restaurant and say, we weren't paid to be here. We weren't paid to eat this food. So we're giving you an honest opinion. I think that's the same thing here. You could use it as a selling point as a creator, as a journalist, and say, I don't do advertising because I want to stay as independent as possible. It used to be journalists didn't vote and they tried to remain independent in their politics. That is so far gone those days. I mean, you might still hear from journalists say, I didn't vote because I want to remain independent, but everyone has politicized who they're working for. We know who owns the newspapers now. That's not stuff you used to know back in the day. You didn't know the politics of the owners of the newspapers you were reading. Now we know all the politics of everyone because everything has been politicized. So I don't think journalists even necessarily want to remain as independent as they have in the past. But I do think it could be a really strong selling point for journalists to say, I have taken no money from anyone other than you, my audience, and I'm giving you what you want because you trust me to deliver the goods, and you're paying me just for the goods. Also, you're not paying me unless I deliver the goods, which is sort of our model here. So we speak with our wallets, we vote with our wallets now, or maybe we do, maybe we don't. But that's one of the things we've always said. Our model and what we believe in is, we're going to tell you we like your product, your writing, because we're only going to buy it if it's good. We're only going to buy it if your headline grabs our attention enough, or your first paragraph is like, hey, I want to know more about this. Or if you've impressed someone we know and they've sent us this and we want to go in and buy this article.
And that's, I mean, to your point, it's like, as much as we're talking about like, how do you justify the $1 billion valuation? I mean, Substack's doing $45 million in revenue and is growing real fast, right? And a lot of people, high profile people, are coming over there. Obviously, they're doing something right just on the basis of the old model. So the VC motivation to come in and say, hey, you're under monetizing this audience should probably be set aside from like, this model actually is working. I mean, it's working, and they're doing a really good job with it. And there's something there, that direct connection.
There's no way though. We all know how VCs work. There's no way. There's no way they're coming in and saying,
they're not going to be like, hey, we're good with your $45 million going to $60 million over 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I got to assume they're hoping that this gets to $500 million. What justifies that kind of investment for a group like this? They probably expect it quickly as well. I mean, how quickly can they double the 45 million? Well, the quickest way to do that is to start advertising, and it probably would double almost instantaneously. Overnight. They start advertising, it might double, triple, quadruple almost immediately. And how do you fight that off? I don't know. Does the current regime running Substack fight it off? Do they just bow down and say, hey, we took that money knowing that this is what they want to do? They've had to have those conversations before they took the check in.
Do you think there's a leadership change coming?
Well, there has to be. I mean, I would think so. And how that relates back to us, I always find it interesting because, we're still scrappy startup. We're still very early stages, and you look at something like that and you cheer along Chris Bess and you say, this is really cool. You came up with an idea. You built a really, really good business that just got a $1 billion valuation and became a unicorn. And you're probably sacrificing yourself in that situation. There's no way this guy is an idiot and thinks, these people are just going to come in and not. Maybe they'll give him a chance to see if he's, can evolve quickly, because he probably has to evolve extremely quickly for this new mindset. Did he get paid big in this 100? Maybe his goal all along was to put $20 million in the bank and be done with it. And maybe that's what happened here. And now we bring in a team of experienced media executives to run a company just like traditional media has been run in the past. Traditional media is an advertising-based business. There's really been very few ways around that. HBO, one of them. HBO has always been a just pay for what you want, but they're
although last night I was watching something on the Disney Channel with my kids, and now I'm like, somehow I'm on like the ad. I'm paying plus I'm watching ads, like whatever cheapo tier that I pay for on Disney. Like, I don't know how we got to this point where it's like you're paying for content, but you're also still absorbing just like the traditional.
Well, that's
Adver-
and that's how it's always been though. You paid for cable, and everything you
Yeah.
watched on cable had advertising in it.
It's so much harder when you can't fast forward it though.
Yeah. Well, those were the days, but advertising has changed so much as well. A lot of times now you don't even know when you're watching an advertisement.
Yeah.
And I think that's by design. Certainly, that's been a business I've been a part of where brands pay to have stories that align with their values that they underwrite and support. And it's not maybe a direct advertisement, but certainly a brand has funded the content that you're consuming, whether you're consuming it, whether it's a film or commercial or maybe an article. I think for me, this just shows us that we're on the right pathway with where we're headed with this company. It really, really excites me. I know it excites you guys because I've heard you talk about how exciting this is. I think the world as a whole, though, when you look at this, they say people are headed towards independence. And this will sort of segue into what we want to talk about with Colbert. All those people losing their jobs at the Colbert show, and Colbert himself losing his job. There's not many $20 million a year hosting gigs out there. He could probably make several $1 million doing some sort of independent podcast, independent newsletter. I don't know if people would subscribe to Colbert's newsletter unless it had video attached to it and you got something exciting to go with it. But it just really is interesting to see where we're going to go with that. And we need these platforms. Like, I think it's so obvious how much the world needs LedeWire to work because we don't have these media companies that are able to do things the way they were used to doing them. And you can't have a show that has 200 staff members that's losing $40 million a year work anymore. Certainly there's probably other things at play there, but it's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to think.
That is, So I mean, I guess shifting topics over to the Colbert thing, like the.
We're new at this podcast thing, segueing topics. We're learning how to do that. So let's shift to the Colbert.
Right. That was a rough segue. We'll get better at those. But I was looking it up before, as we were sort of thinking about these topics for the podcast, and Dave Letterman back in the day, 2015 when he went off air, had sort of 3 to 4 million viewers a night. So maybe call it not quite double what Colbert was doing tonight. I think I heard Colbert had about 2 million viewers a night. Still number one in late night, but about 2 million viewers. But Colbert's budget is like $100 million. Also, Dave, his last episode, he did 14 million viewers, something around those lines, right? I don't, and I think it just speaks to the fact that like the audience is elsewhere now, and I don't know why exactly that is. I don't know if that is because the everybody else is on different platforms. I don't know if it's because Colbert is just he lost touch with his audience, but obviously like that business model of spending $100 million a year, employing 200 people to produce a show and then still managing to lose $40 million on it. Like whatever the politics were behind it, I don't know, or the way that the merger was impacting things, that business model doesn't work anymore, right? Like especially when there's a guy, like a Joe Rogan, how big is his podcast? How many viewers does he have? But like he's not spending $100 million to produce his podcast. He's sitting down in a room interviewing people for 3 hours and letting them talk.
Well, that's where the audience went. I mean, to answer that question, the audience for talk shows is fractured amongst the thousands of successful podcasts that are out there. There's, if we want to hear someone talk, we don't have to cram it into 5 and 6 minute segments between commercials. We lose the bands. We don't get music anymore. We might not get like silliness and impressions or, I'm just thinking of what's Jimmy Fallon and his impressions and things like that. But And the audience has gone to streamers, and so it is a fractured audience.
And that's one of the things that I've heard. Maybe one of the reasons why Kimmel and Fallon haven't been on the chopping block at least as quickly. We'll see what happens in the future, but they're much better at sort of going viral, right? Like, when's the last time somebody sent you a Colbert clip? Like, I don't really get a whole lot of like Colbert clips sent around, but like you do see like Fallon and Kimmel, like, they'll show up in your social media feeds or whatever a little bit more regularly, and so they've maybe done a better job of like leveraging those other platforms and distribution channels than Colbert.
I mean, everything they do now is designed for YouTube. It's not designed for the audience they're attracting live.
Yeah.
The segments are designed to go viral on YouTube. That's where they're selling their ad. That's where they're getting their ad dollars. And I think Colbert, I don't know this as a fact, but I'm pretty sure Colbert's YouTube following is significantly smaller than the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, Fallon leaned into the kind of stunt skit type thing, right? The car karaoke and that kind of thing. I think that was called.
No, that was James Corden, but
that's right. But what is he does like the get a band in a car and sing like play along with them or something like that, right? He has the kind of
it's all designed for virality.
Yeah, totally right. And I think what's interesting, I think that old talk show model is, to your point, like fully transported into the podcast realm. If you want to have honest to goodness talks, I think even Letterman was great because he felt like there were no rules constraining what he talked about. He talked about his own network. He talked about the people that came on in non-fawning ways. And I think now, to your point, that's all done through podcast. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a genuine fear probably among the networks now of pissing off one half or the other of the political aisle. So they're kind of forced to like walk this fence, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean,
you're either kind of like too right-wing fascist or too woke. I think so. So it puts these comedians who are in that vein into a weird spot. Yeah. To your point, they're getting what they do best somewhere else, and they cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, and I think that's a great point too. It's like, Colbert he didn't try to hide his politics, right? And like that's no big deal if you got a podcast or you're putting up a YouTube channel and you're just trying to reach people that are like hate Trump. Like, yeah, I mean, you can probably pull that off if you're not spending much to produce it. You're spending $100 million to produce it. Like, you kind of need to connect with everybody. And like, so maybe that was just a poor business decision on his part. Whether or not that was what ended up getting him fired, it's like, he did lose audience the entire time that he was on the Late Show from where Dave was. So, maybe that was just a poor business decision. But I do think
his audience was actually the biggest live to all of those. So he had the biggest audience.
Yeah.
Of the Jimmies or whoever it is out there, the other groups out there. I think that it's just it's just a dying format.
Well, and then I think another question that's like so interesting, like from the topic we were just talking about, like why is virality so powerful these days, right? Like why is it that like the clips you see from a Fallon or a Kimmel, or even Colbert are like those little shorter viral segments? Like why is that so powerful? And just sitting down and like watching a 30-minute show or an hour show,
I think it's because we've lost monoculture. We've lost the water cooler talk where everyone watched the same thing the night before, and something going viral is the closest we get to that now. So we may not get it all at the same time, but when something goes viral, it generally happens pretty quick. Hawk to a Girl, for instance, that thing was everyone in the world had seen those clips and had comments and jokes about it within 48 hours. So we had a monoculture moment. It was a silly thing that a girl said on some interview. And
by the way, I'm like the worst person to try and answer this question because like I didn't even know about the Coldplay thing until a week later when we were having like an internal meeting and Julie.
Well, the Coldplay thing is a great example because the Coldplay thing was a monoculture moment.
Yeah.
LinkedIn had its busiest day ever with people looking up the CEO and trying to figure out who those people were. And that's monoculture nowadays is virality. And that's what advertisers want. It's hard to predict. And so now we have people that in a room, they're brewing up the magic potion for something to go viral. It sometimes works. It sometimes doesn't. Mm-hmm. The Hawk Tuah, no one saw that coming. Yeah. Coldplay, no one saw that coming.
But like Mr. Beast, like he's made his whole career on these viral clips, right? Like I mean, he's built that show to create those sort of viral moments, right?
Yeah, Yes, and he got famous for going viral for giving things away, and the audience stuck with him. And
Yep.
so he's a monoculture guy in a way, except no one our age, you've probably never seen a Mr. Beast video. And if you have,
No.
it was only out of curiosity of what's all the hype about. You probably watched one and said, I've seen enough. This is
Yeah.
not for me.
I may look like a 45-year-old man, but I'm definitely a lot older at heart. Like I
I did. I saw. I saw today that they're looking for a VP of partnerships. They're out looking to sell ads. They're out looking for new ways to bring in revenue. He claims he loses money. He spends all his money in his productions. He does incredible. I mean, he does almost. He approaches $1 billion in money in. He says he's still broke a lot of times because
Yep.
he spends all the money going back out, or he sends it going back out. So, well, how that relates back to independent creators, though, because I think I could talk about this subject all day long. This is my favorite subject, is to talk about media and entertainment and how it relates to pop culture. But when we get into
just a real quick point on before we tie that one up, like one of the things that I think I like so much about what we're trying to accomplish here, because I think we all do see this power in virality these days. I think, and part of the reason, my hunch is that part of the reason that clips go viral is it's really easy to just whip your phone out and watch a 30-second clip. One of the things that I really like about this platform that we are trying to build is we are trying to sort of promote that virality, as a way of discovering a new writer, as a way of discovering a new opinion, right? We're trying to just make it really easy for somebody to, hey, I'm sitting on the train, I'm going to pull my phone out and see what's going on in the news. Oh, here's a writer I haven't heard about, but this is a topic I really care about. I'm going to see what's going on here. We're just trying to bring down that gate to accessing a new creator. And part of what's so powerful about virality is whether it's an influencer you care about, or just your friends talking about something on social media, posting it to whatever their social media channel is. We connect with things better when we trust the people that are sharing the information with us, right? And that, I think, is what we've built this platform to be. What we're really trying to accomplish is when making it easier for people to share information and get information from trusted parties, whether it's your viewpoint or somebody else's viewpoint. If you trust that person and you believe hey, I know he's a credible source and his heart is in a good place, I will trust I will trust him enough to at least look at the information he's sending me. It should just be easier to access that information, and that's really what I think we're trying to focus on here. And I hope we can kind of leverage that dynamic, because I think it's a pretty powerful one, and it can be used in a really powerful, good way, that can help us all be a little bit better informed, and that's really what I think we're going for here.
Yeah, and trust is an interesting one, because nobody trusts any of the old institutions anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think we're reaching a point where I think one of the cornerstones of our idea is you trust human beings who are putting their name and their work and their effort behind their work.
Yeah.
I think when we think about independent creators, every time somebody, whether it's Colbert and he's fired, or whether it's somebody who leaves a news outlet because you disagree with their values, you're leaving a lot, right? You're taking on the role of
Sure.
HR. You got to get your own health insurance. You have to find your own place to work. You have to source your own stories. You got to market yourself, which if you're a journalist and you want to be doing the work, you probably don't want to be dealing with the marketing of it. So one of the things I like about Substack and subscription platforms, about social as a way to amplify and grow, and about us is ideally, if you establish this, there are 3 pillars of going out to monetize. And if we all start to use them, and all the independent creators out there start to use them, it just makes it easier for them to survive when they don't have the backing of the newsroom or the big corporation giving them a little bit of that safety net. So I think with us, with social's not a way to monetize, but with us and with subscriptions, I think the more ways to help them do their thing, the better, so they don't have to, they can ply their trade the way they want to.
Well, let's jump into, so that we're talking about LedeWire already. So let's sort of go into that. We ran a test last week with the writer named Chris Saliza. Guy's got a pretty big following on Substack. He's been able to successfully transition from writer for major national publications that we've all heard of into independent journalist. He's a huge advocate for independent journalism, but he talks a lot about how challenging it can be and the grind that comes in. And we got some really interesting information from him about building his YouTube audience and the money he put into that and the amount of work and effort it went into to get to a certain number of followers that only translated to less than $10 in payouts. So
This is
go ahead.
this is our segue. What John just said about like social is maybe not a way to monetize your content. Like this is, I think this is what everybody is having to. We're living in this new paradigm, right? Where the audience is more fragmented, where there's so many more distribution channels for anybody that's writing or publishing, putting out content or creating videos. What's the right strategy for reaching the broadest audience and then best monetizing your content, right? And what Chris mentioned, and this was it was a note that he wrote to his Substack. When he left CNN, he spent about a year trying to build his YouTube audience. And he built it from zero to, over the course of a year, putting out 2 well-produced videos per week. So that's 100 videos. He built his audience up to about 5,000 people. And he was getting a check, somewhere around $8.34 a month from YouTube.
He was paying to produce these videos as well.
And he was paying to produce them, yeah. So he's losing money on this endeavor, right? And you think about like what how hard that is to put out 100 videos over the course of a year and to like really produce each one of them. He's working his ass off and he's putting out this higher quality content and it's not really rewarding him in terms of audience or monetary rewards. At least not in a significant way. And then he went to a different format where he started putting out a shorter video, less time in production, 1 per day. And then he started being rewarded, saw the audience grow, and now he's up to like 100,000 subscribers over YouTube. But he had to kind of change his format. He had to retool everything. But just that simple fact of like, you've got 5,000 subscribers, which, probably equates to, I don't know, maybe 10,000 views per video, something like that. So, call it maybe like something like 100,000 views a month, somewhere in that order. You're getting like fractions of a penny, like hundredths of a penny per view for your videos, right? Like that to me doesn't feel like a great monetization channel. I think what, as we move into this new paradigm, the way creators should think about these platforms is those social channels. They're a great place to build an audience. They're a great place to reach more people. YouTube's got 2.7 billion users, right? I mean, the whole world is on YouTube.
It's a quarter of the population, yeah.
Yeah, you can't ignore that. But they're not really rewarding you like financially until you get to be really big, right? But somewhere along the line, Chris has 5,000 people that are kind of tuning in to see what he's saying on a regular basis. You've built credibility with that audience. And what we are really focused on is like giving you an avenue and giving your audience an avenue to support you because like they really appreciate the work that you're doing. Say we're selling ads or videos or whatever for 50 cents a pop. Like that's something like 5,000 times the monetization rate that a YouTube is offering. For, having worked your ass off for a year with their massive audience of 2.7 billion people, like each view is kind of, it's a fraction of a penny. Like we're giving you something 5,000 times that monetization rate. Like I think we are and should be an important part of that monetization strategy. And that's at least what we're trying to offer creators. Like we don't have to be your only distribution channel. That's not what we're saying. But for somebody that just tuned in and wants to hear what you have to say about a topic, there should be a way for them to directly support you and to, make it as frictionless as possible for them to do that.
Yeah, particularly without, like, if I wanted to share something interesting that I've read, there's so many things I don't send to people because I know they don't subscribe to it, and I just don't even share it because I'm like, why would I even tell them to read something? I mean, there's been things I've wanted to send to you before, Morgan, where I'm like, you should read this, and I realize like he probably doesn't subscribe to this person or this publication. Maybe I'll copy and paste an interesting quote or something that I've pulled from it. But for the most part, that virality, we were talking about that earlier, but that virality of an article spreading or a story spreading when there's a subscription attached to it, it's not going to happen. It just is not going to happen. I love that we have made a simple adjustment that will allow that to happen, where you can share an article, continue to monetize it every time it shares, and it doesn't get blocked. Sure, we're a small paywall, but it's an easy one-click paywall that's minimal expense to whoever it is, no commitment. And being able to do that will allow these viral moments and the people that created them to monetize them.
Yep.
And so I think that's just a really subtle shift.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once we get used to that, I think we understand that we want people spending time to make quality content. I think we all value that. Every newspaper we've read, even as a child, I know these reporters are paid to write these articles, and that's what they spent their time on. And we used to look up to reporters and journalists like that because these are professional, curiosity-driven people that want to share a perspective or an opinion or facts on something that they are an expert in.
Yeah.
And we've just lost so much of it with so many non-experts putting out such junk quality. And we now have computers consuming that junk and regurgitating it to us and calling it, a summary or something along those lines. And if we can figure out how to capture this moment, which we are in a moment of change right now with how people are consuming content between AI and Colbert being fired and Substack becoming $1 billion company, a unicorn. If we can capture a piece of there's a piece of all of that, all of those pieces that exist now, and people can make money, I think we can really be a company that contributes to us getting smarter, wiser, and more informed, and supporting people that are willing to do the work. And I think it'd just be a better world if that's the kind of content that we're all consuming.
Yeah, and I think there's something really powerful in these skilled journalists and creators saying, this is how much I think this is worth, this article or this piece, and they can set that price, and people can choose to agree or disagree. And it's just such a straightforward, clear exchange of value that I feel like I think people on both sides of that are going to get a lot out of it. Like,
do you think we should build a tool in LedeWire that helps people understand what to charge? Like, should we use AI in that manner, for instance? Use AI to help creators understand the value of their content, or should we let creators set the value of their content, or some combination of both?
I think we need to give them as much information to make that decision as possible. Let them know. And we are sort of tracking all of these metrics, and we will get better at it. Like, we're not in the business of collecting consumer data and then selling that to an advertiser, but for our internal purposes, like, we are tracking like how people are purchasing things and what I think we'll learn so much over time. And it's actually one of the things that I think I like so much about this model is it really gives you a lot more granularity in understanding what kind of stories people are responding to, when to publish, like what topics people really care about at the time, things like that. Like, with the subscription, it's a little bit more batched, so it's like hard to, one of the problems that I've heard with, like, I think people have talked about bundling, different writers together.
Right.
And one of the problems that people always struggle with that is, like, how do you value one writer over the other, right?
How do you divide it up?
Yeah. And this is like, it's really clear cut. Like, okay, a lot of people showed up to read this one article and they were willing to pay this price. Maybe that price was too low. Or, okay, people didn't turn up for this article, but it was a topic that in the past has sold really well. Maybe that price was too high. Like, we can understand a lot about like what's connecting with an audience just because the granularity is there that it wasn't in another way.
Do you think we would ever do?
We're always, looking to help independent writers. So if there are specific things we can do that would make it easier for them to either use our platform or just monetize in general.
Yep.
Like, we want to know what they want help with, what they want,
Definitely.
tips, tricks, advice, tools. I know for a fact, like, we would respond to direct emails if somebody said, hey, I have questions about how to set the right price, to your example, or how to best even tie in like what I'm already doing on social, which might be bringing in new readers with, how to use LedeWire. So we're always here to listen.
Would ever do dynamic pricing? So, for instance, someone puts a story out and their audience loves it and they share it, and you can see the virality of it taking place in real time. Does the price go up? Does the content become more valuable? Hotel rooms, the scarcity model of the hotel room, the price goes up. You want to go to New York around Christmas time, the closer you get, you can just watch the price of the hotel rooms go up and up and up. You want to go now, mid-July, when it's the heat dome over the Northeast?
Parker,
they'll give you a room for free.
I almost feel like we need to cut this clip because like that's that's a pretty damn good idea for a feature. It's something that it's definitely something that we've talked about in the past. And like, can we make the system to be responsive in real time? Like, there's no reason that we couldn't. It's definitely something I'd be interested in trying out.
Good. I like when we have ideas in real time, and we'll see if they come to fruition or not. Well,
like tying it back to like just the earlier point. I just wanted to say one thing about this. Like, what I think we're really focused on, like right now, the incentive structure to me just feels a little off for independent creators, right? And like going back to that, that Chris story, or like so many of these other things, like social media, or like some of these video platforms or YouTube, whatever, like they incentivize a certain behavior that is higher in frequency, Chris's story is a good one, like where he's producing 2 videos a week. That doesn't really grow his audience. His audience starts growing when he's publishing on a higher frequency. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and he does a really nice job of it. But like I do think it incentivizes these platforms incentivize a certain way of publishing, a certain cadence of publishing. What we really want to incentivize is just like highest quality piece of work that is going to connect with the broadest audience possible. Like we're lowering that bar to reaching an audience, the paying audience. We're trying to lower that bar. And so now we want to incentivize you to just try and reach as many people as possible because the quality of your work is so great that it can't be ignored. And that's, that I think is it's a real shift, and it's not as obvious when we first start talking about this, but it's something that like I really want to emphasize because I think that's what we are trying to accomplish is just changing this incentive structure. And again, it's not the entire picture. It's just one piece of the puzzle. But I think it can be so powerful if we pull this off the right way, and if we can start incentivizing writers to spend more time on each article that they're putting out, spend more time researching things, give them an avenue. If you want to spend a longer period of time investigating a topic and doing like the old school investigative journalism that has been challenged over the last few years because that's where the budget cuts come from these big media platforms. We want to bring that back, and we want to support that. And I think it's really valuable, and it'd be a horrible thing if we lost that as a society. And so hopefully like what we're doing is going to bring that incentive structure back and kind of push people that direction again.
Let's wrap up on that note. I think that's a strong finish. I think it really encapsulates what we're trying to do, why we're doing it. It's got the mission right there in your statement. So let's end it there. We'll come back and do this again, hopefully very soon. Hopefully we'll have Chris on the podcast soon to talk about the success of his first article and the test we ran with him. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.